Trump is pulling a military dragnet all across Los Angeles, well beyond his stated intent to just go after violent and serious criminals. His agents are arresting dishwashers, gardeners.
The thing I just simply cannot understand is if Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass understand the escalations from the armed side, creating an environment that provokes response, why don't they comprehend that the LAPD, the LASD, and the CHP, California Highway Patrol, are doing the exact same thing? Because it's not just the National Guard that provokes and engages in violent actions, and then that actually causes retaliation. And then the images that you see of, burning cars or whatever and chaos are all over the timeline. You're doing the same thing with the local law enforcement that is under your employ. This is a major contradiction, and I cannot comprehend how liberals on the one hand, from afar, will say, oh my God, it's unacceptable that the National Guard is being deployed, which is true, it is unacceptable. Or, oh my God, it's unacceptable that the Marines are going. It's even more unacceptable. You're right about that. But then you don't actually dig deep and try to figure out why it's unacceptable. But Gavin Newsom is openly, and Karen Bass are openly revealing why it's fucked up. Because military presence and the additional escalation in the use of force provokes people into retaliating, never to reach the same standard of the state, but retaliating in also militant fashion. And what's interesting about that, once again, is that they just don't comprehend how the same dynamic exists with the LAPD, the LASD, and the California Highway Patrol, which are so far the only groups with limited response from the federal police. The only groups that have so far caused panic and chaos have been the Los Angeles local police. Okay? The only exception is because this is a federal building, okay? And right now, the only authority that the Trump admin has with the federalized National Guard is to, quote unquote, protect federal buildings, okay? The federalized National Guard and the Marines cannot move beyond the point of protecting, in air quotes, these federal buildings, okay? This is what they did in Portland as well. There are some groups that can operate in law enforcement fashion as federal law enforcement officers on the streets of Los Angeles, like BORTAC. ICE would be one of those units. Technically, BORTAC in Portland in the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests actually did conduct kidnappings, literally kidnappings. But the only people that are the only groups that are currently directly pushing these protesters are the Los Angeles Police Department, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, and the California Highway Patrol. Beyond that, federalized, the National Guard being federalized is because the federal government has sanctioned or caused the National Guard to be deployed, not the state government. Under normal circumstances, the National Guard is supposed to be brought in and deployed by the state. The last time that the National Guard was deployed against the wishes of the governor was in Alabama with LBJ. And even then, what they can do legally is limited. They have to, yes, LeBron James chat. What they can do is limited to protecting federal agents or protecting, protecting like, I don't know, senators or whatever, like federal assets, agents, which is precisely the reason why currently the National Guard that is armed with lethal weapons are either A, stationed at these federal buildings, or participating in the ICE raids alongside ICE agents who are federal law enforcement agents of the Federalized National Guard conducting raids. Their response to the protests have been relatively limited, with the exception that I pointed to. With the exception that I noticed on stream, where they were shooting from above the fucking rooftop of the federal building at the crowd, which they were not supposed to be doing. Newsom is blaming Trump for escalations, which is true, except most of the escalations directed at protests have come from LASD, LAPD, and CHP. So far, the federal LEOs, National Guard, are only stationed at federal buildings, and as of this morning, deployed alongside ICE on raids. So when you see, and I know there's like a little bit of misinformation about this stuff, because like the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, most of the fucking local law enforcement also are so geared up that they look like fucking military because they're so heavily militarized. So I understand why people are a little bit confused. And the Los Angeles Sheriff Department's fatigues are the same color almost as the National Guard, even though it's not. National Guard has camo. LASD has like the sand colored fatigues. So people get confused when they see the Sheriff's Department actually doing violent shit, and they think, oh, it's the National Guard. They're like brutalizing people. That's not the case. This isn't to say that they won't, but so far they have not.